What's up, my dude? Ski Barney Z. I appreciate you, dog. So, finally got my first member on my channel, right? He's my homeboy. He's been hanging out, playing games with us all for a while now. I know you're just supporting me. I appreciate the heck out of it, dude. That's so cool that you did that. Like, I just wanted to say I appreciate you. And just to let everybody else know, I do have memberships on my channel now. So when I start really getting more into the live streaming, that's going to become a bigger thing. You can check that out on my channel. All you got to do is hit the join button, and it'll show you what kind of badges you can get beside your name. And it's got all these different cool custom emojis that you can use in the live stream and the chat, and there is some perks there as well. You get in my dude ski roll in my Discord, you get a shout out in a video in the live stream, you get access to dude ski only live streams and dude ski only live chat. So there's quite a few little perks for it, but it's really just supporting my channel. So MX Bikes Terrain Deformation, okay? So first of all, it's amazing. Right off the bat, it's amazing. It's great. I mean, holy crap. This like pretty much explains everything that's wrong with MX Simulator's terrain deformation. That's why I love it so much. I can directly compare and explain everything that's wrong with MX Simulator's road system because of how MX Bikes' terrain deformation system is. So this is how you have a proper... Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be going in here and doing some laps where there's no terrain deformation. Then I'm going to skip through to like lap 5 and then skip through to like lap 10 and then skip, kind of so on and so forth instead of just doing 300 laps on the track. So going to try to kind of show what it does over time in a little bit more of a compacted video, right? So what's so cool about it is... And this is the whole thing I've been talking about with MX Simulator's road system this whole time. MX Bikes actually has cushion to the dirt. The game engine of MX Bikes can actually handle a terrain deformation system. It's not some weird, outdated game from 2007 that has no cushion to the dirt and trying to, pack on a terrain deformation system on top of that that just does not belong in the game. It actually feels like it belongs in MX Bikes. That's the whole entire difference. With MX Bikes, you actually have softness to the dirt, so instead of it just making these crazy concrete-ass, janky ruts in every corner like it does on MX Simulator, you actually have a bit of a softness to the ruts, and you can go in and out of the ruts. It kind of reminds me of the way Reflex's terrain deformation system is, which I still consider to be the best terrain deformation of any motocross game out there, period. But MX Bike's terrain deformation system sort of reminds me of how Reflex's was, but for a simulator. Not 100%, right? Not exactly like Reflex's, but it kind of has the same sort of comparison to it. But it is just so much better when you actually have a newer game engine to a motocross game that can handle eroding terrain that is not concrete terrain. It's actually got movement to it, cushion to it, where you can go in and out of the ruts, and it doesn't create janky kickers on jump faces. Like even the kickers that it forms in MX Bikes feels like normal kickers. It doesn't feel like jank-ass flip you right over the bike style kickers, right? It just makes the jump faces a little bit more difficult, right? But on MX Simulator, first of all, it doesn't even make ruts going up a jump face really at all. It doesn't really make ruts going in a straight line. It only really does that in corners. It doesn't really make ruts going through whoops. It doesn't make proper kickers. It doesn't do anything right, really. It doesn't do anything right, but yet some of those road fanboys still like to try to defend it. It's mind-baffling. But with MX Bikes, it does all that. It makes ruts going up the jump faces, ruts going in a straight line, soft, cushiony, cool ruts, ruts going in the corner without making one giant motocross berm, multiple lines, multiple eroded terrain deformation lines, kickers on jump faces that aren't insane and janky. It's crazy. It is so awesome, and I can't wait to see how this terrain deformation system develops in MX Bikes in the future. And it's funny because it's not like there's a erode setting or we have the erode on 10 or 5 or 15 or whatever. It's just set to a default amount on MX Bikes, and it just works. It just works. Isn't that crazy how with MX Simulator, it's like you got to have every different kind of a road setting imaginable just to even try to get it rideable or feel normal or anything. You know, you got to have it on a road 10 when it's 3 people on the track, and a road 40 when it's 1 person on the track. At least that's the way it was back then. I know it's changed over time because they've changed the way their road system works, but, you know, and then have a road on 0.5 with 40 people. You see what I'm saying? You got to have it on all these different things with MX Simulator, but MX Bikes, it's just a default base kind of a road system. So whether you're in there with 1 person, it feels good. If you're in there with 5 people, it feels good. I was in there racing with like 15 dudes on a track like 2 nights ago, and it felt great. So it's like a thing of see what it does when you have a newer game engine that's actually made for a terrain deformation system. You see what I've been talking about this whole time with MX Simulator? You could sit there and try to make MX Simulators a road system better for another 10 years, and it's still not going to be as good as MX Bikes' terrain deformation system because the game engine was not made for it. It's a game from 2007 made by one guy. It was never made for a terrain deformation system. So unless JLV just totally rips apart his game and reinvents it from the core, reinvents his game engine from the ground up, which he's never going to do, it's never going to be what you want it to be. That's one of those things. You've got to leave MX Simulator where it is. You've got to leave it where what was good in MX Simulator. You cannot continue to try to put these modern-day advanced game systems into a game from 2007. The fuck are you guys doing? That's why it's so shitty. That's why. Because the game wasn't even made for it. Go to MX Bikes and you will see what I'm talking about when I talk about cushion to dirt and how ruts are supposed to be formed and made on tracks and made up jump faces and kickers and all that kind of shit. You will see exactly what I'm saying. Like, damn. It's just people have this fantasy that some way, somehow, MX Simulator is eventually going to get this good terrain deformation system, and it's never actually going to happen. That's a facade. You formulated that up in your head thinking it's going to happen, and it never really is. The developer himself said it. So, but either way, with MX Bikes, it's, I'm not really sure all the actual specifics in there on like which tracks deform more than other tracks or whatever, but I do know this new Asin track on MX Bikes definitely seems to be deforming quite a bit more than some of the other tracks that I rode on. So I don't know if that's just like certain loam sand tracks rode up more or whatever. I know when I went and rode on some of the Supercross tracks, they didn't rode up very much. So there definitely is a default built into the custom track, this is how much it's going to deform type setting. You understand what I'm saying? Not something that you're sitting there changing while you're riding on it or changing before you get in there and ride on it like with MX Simulator. It's almost like built into the custom track setting. You know how on Reflex, like when you go to the Sandwick track, that's going to rut up completely differently than when you go to a hard pack track or a Supercross track or whatever. It's built into the track, and that kind of seems like that's what it is with MX Bikes. Seems like the terrain deformation of it is kind of built into the track, but it actually makes its own roughness. It makes its own individual ruts. It does all the things that MX Simulator's terrain deformation system just cannot do. It's crazy when you start to realize how bad MX Simulator's road system really is. It's insane. It's just unreal. It doesn't even make sense. But it's one of those things of, it's just MX Simulator's game engine is too old for this kind of a system. You just got to let MX Simulator be. Let it be what it is. Let it be a great game with awesome pre-made, awesome pre-built design tracks. Do not try to shove some modern day system into it that just doesn't work in it. Just stop trying to do that. If you want to go to an MX Simulator 2 with a modern, game engine, all that kind of stuff, and you want to try to do a terrain deformation system in that, and it's there from day one and all that kind of stuff, hey, I'm all for that. Let's do it, bro. I would expect that to be in an MX Simulator 2, but you need to stop trying to put that into a game from 2007. Stop. It doesn't make any sense. That is so stupid. Good Lord, you're killing the game. You're going to completely kill the game. I'm just saying. But either way, so yeah, it's pretty cool how, like, you know, when you first start riding some laps on an MX bikes track, you might get it in your head that it's just a visual thing with the terrain deformation, but then once you get like lap 15, 20, 30, you start to realize it is more of a physical actually digging down in the ground, right? So it kind of starts as a visual thing, and then it turns into more of a, where the ruts start grabbing you, the kickers start affecting you over the jump faces, all that kind of cool shit. So yeah, I'm really happy. And have you seen me complain once about, oh my God, these MX bikes tracks are so basic. There's no inside ruts. They need more inside ruts. Where's the pre-made? What the hell's going on? Have you seen me complain about that once? No. Guess why? Because it's a modern day game engine with an actual decent terrain deformation system in it. That's the whole difference in MX bikes and MX Simulator, you fucking idiots. That's why I complain about MX Simulator, because it shouldn't even have the terrain deformation system in it that it has. It does not work in the game. And you take away all the pre-made and the amazing things that was already in MX Simulator and just make it worse to build the tracks around the road system. Holy crap. People just don't. They get so lost in the abyss. They get so lost, and they just don't understand what things really are like. They don't get it. So either way, MX Bikes' terrain deformation system is the definition of why a modern day game engine with actual cushion to the dirt is what is made for a terrain deformation system in a motocross game. And if you don't have those things, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Period. So either way, just wanted to come here and kind of show off some of the terrain deformation on MX bikes. I'm a big fan of it. It does kind of it goes through multiple different stages. It's pretty cool. It kind of goes from a like smooth to more ruddy rough to back to smooth a little bit, but it just keeps going. It's not like you run 40 laps and then it just quits or some shit. It just keeps going and keeps going. Hell, we had like 20 dudes on a track the other night. Rode like, we was practicing on there, rode probably like 30, 40 laps on it or 50 laps with like 20 dudes on it, and it was still evolving, still changing, still rutting up more, still making different kind of things on the track. So it is definitely a rideable, fun terrain deformation system, and MX Bikes, it's really, really good for what it is and where they're at in the game and all that kind of stuff. Like if they keep on improving that, you know, it definitely has some good potential. It could be a really good terrain deformation system in a, you know, motocross simulator, and that's going to be something that separates it from MX Simulator, because MX Simulator's terrain deformation is not even really a terrain deformation system. It's bullshit. It's a wannabe terrain deformation system. It's not really a terrain deformation system. That's why they call it a road, bitch, because it wasn't even made for that. It was made to go in there and put down some ruts on your custom track and then save that pre-made custom track and have that be your custom track. It was never even made to actually be a changing over time terrain deformation system. You idiots just don't get it. You don't get it. And it's so evident too. It's like we went through 10 years on MX Simulator with no terrain deformation system. And then they try to put it in there and it just has never worked. It's never really worked. So, and that's the thing. I feel like with these motocross games, you need to either have a terrain deformation system from day one or don't have one from day one. Don't try to put one in there 10 years into the life cycle of the game, because then you fuck up all the old track content, you jack up all the old custom tracks, it just changes, you split the community, you change the community, you change the game way too much. It's just terrible. So either you need it from the start or you need to not have it from the start. And MX Simulator did not have it from the start. So get it out of the fucking game. If you want to put it in an MX Simulator 2 from the start, great. Let's do it. But stop trying to put it in MX Simulator. That don't make sense. So either way, man, like you can definitely tell it affects the way you can whip over some jumps. It's really cool to see when you've whipped on a jump a bunch of times, how it will actually make that, you know, curve rut in the jump face on MX bikes. Really cool, because then it starts affecting how good you can whip off of that jump face. That's just so crazy. It's so funny because MX Simulator just is so not even close to the same kind of like making ruts up the jump face, making proper kickers. It ain't even close to MX bikes. It ain't even close. So, but it's just really cool, and I'm excited to see what happens with it in the future on MX bikes. And it's just working with the roughness, pre-made roughness on the track. It's working with some of the pre-made ruts on the track. It's not making anything worse because there's actually cushion. That's how it's supposed to work. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Don't forget, I got my memberships up on my channel now if you want to be a part of that. I'm going to start live streaming a lot more, so that'll be more worth it. But yeah, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.